We begin with some developing news. Within the last few minutes, the Browns have agreed to a trade to acquire the twitchy, speedy wide receiver that they need. It is Elijah Moore. We've talked about him quite a bit. Was a second-round pick, second in the second round a couple of years ago from the Jets. The Browns are giving up pick number 42. They are getting Elijah Moore and pick 74. From the New York Jets for Elijah Moore. And when you talk about Elijah Moore, it's the speed guy that you want. You see quick slants. He's a guy that can run the jet sweep out of Mississippi, can get deep. Again, was the second pick in the second round a few years ago for the New York Jets out of Mississippi. So it was the year the Browns took Greg Newsome in the first round, so they did not have a crack at him in the second round. What that means, though, is Elijah Moore under contract for a couple of years. There is no fifth-year option because he is a second-round pick. Let's welcome in Jeff Lloyd from the Locked On Browns podcast. Jeff, there was some speculation as to who it might be. It ends up Elijah Moore. It's intriguing. A guy that fell out of favor with the Jets, didn't really get targeted a lot with them a season ago.
But you look at the New York Jets situation. Since they have drafted Elijah Moore, they have, since gone out and drafted Garrett Wilson. They have now signed Allen Lazard. They have now also signed today Mecole Hardman, obviously somebody we talked about a lot here is a possibility for the Cleveland Browns. And you go back to Mary Kay Cabot, who didn't seem to want to get off of this. Obviously, this is somebody, and we've heard maybe with the Jerry Jeudy talks, the Browns having a lot of interest in somebody. For the Browns, the interest in Elijah Moore stayed there. It stayed real. And you got to think that once it was, that Mecole Hardman and the New York Jets have agreed to terms, it really seemed like it was really going to, even if they wanted to keep Elijah Moore, how do you do it at that point? You've already brought in 3 other wide receivers since you brought this guy in. How were you going to calm him down? How were you going to appease him where he was going to be comfortable with his role? Because essentially he would have been the 4th wide receiver. You could have told him whatever you wanted, but you brought in 3 other wide receivers since you acquired him, and we're only talking about a guy going into his 3rd year. For the Browns, he can play the slot. He can play on the outside if he wants to. You go back to his college tape. Whether it's him versus Alabama, obviously Ole Miss nowhere near the manpower Alabama has. I think it was 11 receptions, well over 200 yards. This guy can go all day long. And I think I like the fact that, this guy now is going to play with an even bigger chip on his shoulder because of what happened in New York. But there's a lot of things you can do with him. It gives you a look into a wide receiver room where the life after Amari Cooper might be with Donovan Peoples-Jones, with Elijah Moore. This was a big, big get for the Browns because obviously we were talking Jerry Jeudy, we were talking Marcus Goodman, we were talking Mecole Hardman. But the Browns ended up basically circling it back to a guy they had a lot of interest in. And with the Jets having to put these certain parameters in place to get this Aaron Rodgers deal done, Elijah Moore and his value in the Jets locker room just seemed to become less and less and less. The Browns were able to swoop in here and get a guy that they really, really, really like.
And this is a guy that you give him a quarterback. Remember, he's playing. The guy playing quarterback was either Mike White or Zach Wilson. You give Deshaun Watson a guy like this, and you let him go, and you let him pick up some easy yards is the thought.